Guys, there's a lot of things changing, and they're changing fast. If you're looking around, um, I want to talk to you guys about anger. Because I'll tell you what, I'm pretty sure I was born with anger. Real anger. Even my mom told people that as a baby, once I learned to walk and stuff, now I didn't want to be hugged and kissed on, held, none of that. Just put me on the ground, let me do what I want to do. And I started off like that. Now, by no means, folks, am I going to try to convince you I had the worst childhood. By no means. My wife's childhood was worse than mine. My father's my father and his three brothers, let me see, two brothers, had a far worse childhood than mine. Many people had a far worse childhood than mine. Mine was not the worst. Mine just happened that for me, on me. It's my testimony. I can't go back and fix mine. I certainly can't go back and fix yours. But I am by no means comparing myself or my childhood to anybody's. Because there are people that even today are having a worse childhood than mine. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, I'm not claiming a victim, folks. If I didn't go through the things I went through as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, and as up to 55 years old, that's where I got you guys. I got 55 years of being stupid and ignorant and all of it. All of it. 55 years at least. No, it was around 55 before I found Jesus. Now, I knew, see, I've been protected all my life. I've done things that people went to prison for. I've done things that people died for. I've done things that got people hurt like you would not believe when they tried to do it. I've been in the mountains and the deserts. I've been all across this country doing things when I was young enough to do it. I did this on no money. I didn't have no money or anything. I just wanted to get away from my childhood. And I had about 17 years of something some of you would say, oh my God, I can't believe that. Others of you would say, man, I wish that's all would have had to gone through. So I'm not even going into that. But my anger grew. And like I said, I think I was born with anger. But it grew from a child all the way up through uh, 55 years old. My face was split open right down through here. That's why I wear the mustache, and you can still see the scar running down my chin here. Well, this was I was probably around 4 or 5, and so I somehow was shoved off of a bunk bed. Same person. Let's see. Where can you see this? See the scar? Runs right up through here. Same person. Oh, at about 5 or 6, slammed my thumb in a car door. Splattered it. That was them stitching my thumb back together. Same thumb, same person. Kicked a basketball as I was walking up to pick it up, and she kicked it the second I was picking it up. Laid this thumb right straight back on my wrist. Dislocated it. Same thumb, same scar. She already got it once. I had a lot of anger growing up. Scars on my face. One eye has a lower drop than the other. That's the one that got punched the most. The bone has been kind of lowered. Went through a lot. Not the worst. By no means. Anger. Oh, by the time I graduated high school, was the beginning of my anger. I went into the military because of my lungs and my heart problem. I couldn't get through basic training. They sent me back home. Back home. I didn't want to be at home. Wanted out of there. When I got back home, I went to Florida. In my car. I had family down there that was going to help me once I got down there, but I packed my car up and went straight to Florida. Got tied up into a bunch of crap down there I didn't need to be around. Because I almost did it. Oh, it was still happening. I was just almost involved in it. I even left a car. A New Yorker buddy. I was traveling in style. Chrysler New Yorker. Fully loaded. Everything. I left that car sitting on the side of a road. Got in a bus and left Florida. That's how I left Florida. Anger. I get out to Arizona. I'm not running with all the best people. And most of them are cops. I'm telling you. I ain't lying to you folks. I was not running with the best people, and most of them were cops. There's a reason why Joe Arpaio had to be pardoned by Trump. There's a reason for that. Even Joe Arpaio, when he was in office, has a video of cops and gang members chasing me through Mesa, Arizona, and I'm in my Bronco set up like my Jeep, but this is a full-size Bronco. It's set a lot higher than my Jeep. Same size tires and everything on my Bronco too, but it was rock crawling. And I'm driving through town. I couldn't go down the road because lights were stopping me, and I had a bunch of skinheads chasing me, wanting to hurt me. I went through people's front yards, went through backyards, went through an intersection where I landed into the intersection, and there was an off-duty sheriff. He called in the sheriff's Arpaio called in the sheriff's department on it, got their helicopter. This is on video in Arizona, Mesa, Arizona. I drove through, tore down fences. I drove across people's bushes, and I drove through everything trying to get away from these skinheads. I did not have no cops right behind me. I had skinheads in cars chasing me. I'm trying to get back to my house where my shotgun is. All I have to do is open up a door and there's a shotgun right there. And that's where I'm trying to get back to. First car behind me is actually a off-duty Sheriff Arpaio deputy. And he has a gun. Now, I pulled right next to the door because I got a side door on my house at that time. I had a side door I could pull right up to, shotgun right inches inside that door. I'm thinking I got skinheads following me. We didn't have cell phones, folks. There were no cell phones at this time. Or, well, the rich had them. We didn't have them. I was trying to get to a gun first and then call my house. I had a phone there. I could call the cops. As soon as I jumped out of my Bronco, that off-duty sheriff was the first one behind me. He was right behind me. Through the yards and all. Oh, well, no, he didn't go through the yards. He stayed on the roads, but he was the one right behind me. As soon as I jumped out of my Bronco, he had his gun drawn, yelling, "I'm a sheriff. I'm a Maricopa County Sheriff deputy, and you better get on the ground right now. I'm gonna shoot you." I laid on the ground immediately. My shotgun only about 1.5 feet from me, 2 feet. That's how close I got to my shotgun. Had over 4 Mesa cops that were behind the skinheads, and 3 Mesa cops and 4 sheriff deputies in police cars behind everybody that was chasing me, other than the lead guy that was a deputy. And I didn't know it because he was in his own personal vehicle. I did not know. He did not have lights, sirens, nothing. He was in his own personal vehicle. And these guys, even the skinheads, come up behind him, thinking the guy that had the gun on me was one of them. I ain't playing with it. My wife and daughter and my son left to go to the grocery store. By the time they got back to our neighborhood, not to the house, they couldn't get nowhere near the house. By the time they got back to try to get to the house, nowhere for them to drive through, so many cop cars, and they had ambulance and fire department. They had everybody up there, and a sheriff helicopter flying over. My wife pulls in, and I swear this is exactly what she said. "Oh my God, what has Brian done?" And she wasn't even for sure if it was me. Now, these people, by the time it was done, I was so angry and mad. I just couldn't believe this stuff. Uh, I got a, I was turned loose, didn't go to jail, and given a ticket for an unsafe lane change after all that. All of it. And I pled guilty in court on an unsafe lane change because I did make an unsafe lane change, and one of the guys, the skinheads, on his motorcycle went right underneath my Bronco because I slammed on my brakes, took him out. Oh, they wanted me to pay for his medical bills and the motorcycle. Then the cops found out the motorcycle was stolen. I ain't playing with you people. I am not lying to you. This is all public record. This is why I tell people I'll give you my social security number. That's why there's 400 and some pages. If you got my social security number and you're doing my background check, there's 400 and some pages today. There's a reason for that. I'm not lying to you people. Anger. I had so much anger in me. This kind of stuff going on in my life with the law, with the government, the college that I was going to, all different kinds of people that I met, my customers, because I did had a house painting business that would just wanted to screw me in some way. I got screwed big time in court and had to eat it all by one customer. All this anger built up on me for years. People didn't know. And I tell them, you know what? Somebody screwed me that I was working for. And one of the times I told them, look, they told me I got to feed my family and stuff first before I pay you. And I said, all right, you know what? You're right. You're right. You got to do what you got to do. I said, now I got to think about my family and what I'm going to do. And what I'm going to do is if I see you in town, I'm going to cut you down like a Christmas tree. Guy had my money. To me, he was pawning everything he had. And he brought me my money. I've told people younger than me, half my age, that got up in my face. And I told them, now this guy, we were in work, I was running rail yards, containers, with a semi. This young guy talking his crap on the CB, because we're running this rail yards and taking all the stuff coming into this rail yard to all the local distributors and stuff. That's what we would do. And this young guy didn't know me. And I had a high dollar CB and it was loud and it got out for a long way. And those guys didn't like it. And these guys would hear me. They always told me when they finally met me, they was like, man, I'm pretty sure the way you sound on the radio, you was going to be like about 6'9" or something, you know. I kept walking in at 5'7". But these guys I was running with, they all knew. My boss that hired me knew I carried a gun everywhere I went. I carried guns for years, folks. I'm not playing with you. I carried gun almost everywhere I went, even church. My anger had me doing this, even church. But I was brought on to the security detail of the church because I did carry a gun. And I ended up working with the security of the church. But I carried a gun everywhere I went, folks. everywhere. And I had a lot of anger on top of it in the hat. I used to be known by in the church. I was not. You know the guy that wears the cowboy hat, carries the gun on his hip. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's it. Yeah. I was known by the cowboy hat and the gun on my head at the church. At the church, I was security over, and we had police officers and sheriff deputies that were in the church as well that worked security. But a lot of times I was working, watching all the cameras and stuff, and I would just be like a backup. But ended up, older lady didn't like me carrying my gun anymore, and they asked me not to carry it into the church, and I quit going to the church. I can carry my weapons in order to make me feel safe anywhere I want to go. You better be able to find them. That's all I can tell you. But I'm always carrying a weapon. I assure you. Anger. Anger, folks. I had people at one time that, because of my revenge, that I pulled, anger brought revenge into my life. And revenge ended up being my thing. Revenge. If you fuck with me or my family, and I'm using old language, folks, because I get back into that mood again if I let it go. If you mess with my family or me, you better be watching every dark spot you walk up on. That's what I used to tell people. I said, you won't even see me coming. You'll just feel yourself go and just into a black and fall. That's what I used to tell these people. And a lot of people still believe it to this day. Anger, folks. I looked at this young guy. Oh, when I get back to that container yard. This guy's half my age. Oh, he thinks he's big time tough. I get out of my tractor with my container behind me being weighed to ensure it's the same container that came in, it's going out. They weigh them and everything. And they checked all the numbers on the plates and everything. So I'm getting out and walking up to go into the office to get my ticket so I can leave with it to deliver that container. This younger guy, half my age, jumps out of his truck because he's been pissed off about what I said about him on the CB radio coming in there. And I told him where I would be and told him I'm not afraid of you. So he met me when I jumped out of my tractor and walked to the back of my trailer. He was standing there. And he goes, and started bitching about whatever I was saying. And I was like, oh, I'm just kind of snickering. And he gets right up in my face. And now I'm getting anger. It's kicking up. And I'm just standing there gripping my teeth. And this guy is yelling at me. And he's yelling, I know you carry a gun and you're so lucky. If you didn't have that gun, I'd just beat you all over the place. I'd beat you across this. And when he stops, I looked at him. And I said, my gun is in the cab. I'm at least 40 feet, or not 40, it was 40, yeah. Yeah, it was 40. I was 40 feet from my gun. And I was still standing in front of him. And I said, one more thing. If you don't get out of my face, I won't take a piece of you home with me tonight. And he backed right up. He backed right up. He goes, what the hell you mean by that? I didn't say another word. I did what I had to do and left. He worked for the same company I did. He called the boss. He told the boss what happened. And he told him the truth that he got up in my face and everything. And when I looked at him and said, if you don't back the heck up off of me, I'm going to take a piece of you home with me. And he told the boss he even backed the hell up off of me because he didn't know what the heck I meant by it. So when I got back over, my boss pulled me in the office and said, what happened, man? I said, these guys beat me over here because I was always the last one coming in. Because those guys didn't want overtime. I wanted overtime. So I was always the last one coming in. So the guys that heard it on the radio, the CB, we all had CBs. We worked off of CBs, talking to the rail yards and talking to the distribution centers through CBs. So we all had them. And all these guys come back to the yard talking about it. Now, even my boss knew I carried a gun. And even the guy told him that my gun was in the cabin. It wasn't on me. But my boss looked at me and said, man, that we all want that. What the hell? Because my boss knew I was a serious person and I'm going to defend myself. And he believed whatever I would tell him, you better back up. I'm going to hurt you. And most people will believe it. And he goes, what did you mean by you would take a piece of him home with you? I said, because I was getting ready to grab him. This guy had long hair, hung down in front and down in the back. I said I was looking at him and already done it 3 times before I told him what I was going to do. And I said I was going to reach up and grab him on both sides of his head, by his hair. I was going to turn my head and pull his nose into my mouth. And his nose was going to be what I took home with me. And my boss kind of snickered and laughed. And I just sit there like this. And he goes, are you serious? I didn't have to be, did I? We'd have had to wait and see if he didn't back off of me. That's the kind of person I used to be. Anger. People still probably watching in dark places that had wronged me, even though they don't understand that I forgave all them. And I'm hoping they can forgive me in their lives, because if you can't forgive, you can't be forgiven. Not by God or Jesus. I personally today do not want to hurt anybody. Not even, I don't even want to hurt somebody's channel or anything anymore. You know, unless it's just nastiness, nasty. I wouldn't even want to do that. I mean, that's how much I don't want. We all are at different levels. And where it took me 55 years to get to where I am today, and well, it took me 60 years to get to where I am today, but 55 before I really started walking with Jesus. I know most of you that are listening to me probably are half that age. But what if you don't get the chance that I did? What if you don't get 55 years to figure it out? When I walked away from anger, I gained peace. Like you wouldn't believe. And most of my anger came from my childhood. God loves you. Jesus loves you. I love you. Don't waste your time with people who don't love you.